A good evening to you all, and thank you for joining us here on Rwanda Television News tonight. Our hope is that you had yourselves a productive Thursday. Now here's a sneak peek at our edition tonight. Rwanda is set to host the 7th edition of the Youth Connect Summit starting tomorrow on Friday, which will bring together entrepreneurs from over 30 countries across Africa. Special Advisor to the UN Secretary General on the Prevention of Genocide and War Crimes Against Humanity, USG, Alice Wairimu Nderitu, who is attending ongoing series of workshops aimed at leveraging Rwanda's lessons on genocide prevention at Kigali Genocide Memorial, says Africa and the rest of the world have not learned any lessons from Rwanda's dark past. On the international scale, Malawi, with help from the World Food Programme, has received its first shipment of more than 19,000 tons of maize from Ukraine. Once again, we're glad to have your company tonight, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali, and our bringing you the news tonight is Martina Abera. Kicking things off, let us inform you that Rwanda is set to host the 7th edition of the Youth Connect Summit starting tomorrow on Friday, which will bring together entrepreneurs from over 30 countries across Africa. This event is expected to provide new job opportunities for the youth, as has been the case in previous editions. We have more of the story from Enora Gladys.
This year's Youth Connect Africa Summit is anticipated to bring together leaders from government institutions, investors, and young people with development projects. Past participants of the Youth Connect competitions have highlighted that not only the prizes they received, but also the valuable insights and innovations they gained, which they have incorporated into their projects.
I got so many tips from my fellow young entrepreneurs, for example, using social media platforms. Before I attended this competition, I was not aware how to use social media platforms, example, Twitter, Instagram, also so many platforms. But now I know that social media is wide, is viral. Once you post your product, everyone will be able to see it. Yes. I started Youth Connect. It really gave me opportunity to stand out. For example, it gave us the opportunity to have enough production so that we can go to the market and satisfy our customers. Second thing was that it gave me an opportunity to hire youth like me, young youth like me, ladies and boys.
The lesson I got from there is nothing is impossible. Everything is possible if you work hard and if you respect the team you have. So that is a big lesson I have learned when I was in Youth Connect 2022. During connecting with other fellows in Youth Connect, mostly the summit and the other Youth Connect members have joined since I joined it. I learned there that if the plan does not work, change the plan but never change the goal. Most people start something and if it is not work, they reject to do it, they stop it. But I learned that if you are doing something, learn how you can do in one way or another, but reach on.
The summit will take place shortly after the government of Rwanda launched its 5-year Development Acceleration Program, which is the second national strategy of transformation NST2. Among the key goals of this program is to create 1,250,000 jobs over 5 years, with an annual target of 250,000 new jobs, which is expected that the youth will make a big contribution about it. Minister of Youth and Culture, Dr. Abdallah Jean-Nepo Utumatwishima, states that this Youth Connect Africa Summit has played a significant role in the creation of 50,000 jobs, providing hope that the goals of NST2 are achievable.
Youth Connect as an idea is a homegrown solution. It was an initiative of His Excellency the President Paul Kagame when he envisioned the young people at the center of socioeconomic development. He envisioned that young people can first meet together, they discuss peer-to-peer discussions about their roles in socio-economic development of Rwanda.
Dr. Utumatkwishima Abdallah further adds that Youth Connect has not only provided opportunities for the youth, but has also helped Rwanda to elevate globally.
When young people in Rwanda meet with the other young people from across the continent, the first thing we have this intercultural exchange, which even expose our young people to the ways other young people in Africa work. The first lesson that young people in Rwanda study when they meet the other African, how do you pitch your business idea? So some of the young people across the continent, they know how to write and how to pitch their business ideas, and they can get the investors quickly. So that skills exchange between the young people is very important. Another thing that I have seen is the connection. They do the networking events, and after the summit, you would see young people trying to start businesses, joint ventures with other young people from the continent. So you would see young people exporting some agriculture produce to other countries where we have Youth Connect chapters.
This year's theme of the Youth Connect Africa Summit will focus on innovations through technology, creating new jobs in agriculture and food self-sufficiency, reproductive health, and improving access to knowledge on capital rising for young entrepreneurs. The event will be attended by 33 African countries, including Lesotho, which recently joined. Enora Gladys, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Enora Gladys, for that report. Now, moving on, civil society organizations operating in the East African community are greatly concerned by the current health situation in the East African community due to the lack of a regulation for industrially produced trans fatty acids. This alarms the Uganda National Health Consumers Organization, International Institute for Legislative Affairs, and the Tanzania Women Lawyers Association, and should equally alarm any well-meaning East African. A delegation of this platform has submitted a petition to the retired Honorable Speaker of EALA in the quest of getting the support needed to advocate for this matter in the region, as some of the members stipulate on the microphone of our colleague Eddie Saviti, who is in Kampala.
The acid. We have found from the research we've done and what WHO has done, it shows that trans fatty acid is increasing cardiovascular heart diseases. The intake, there is increased intake in not only Uganda but in the entire East African countries. But because also there is a trans-border trade, you find some products that we consume in Uganda come from Kenya. Actually, 80% of the trans fatty acids products come from Kenya. So we want a regional regulation that can help regulate some of these companies from producing those trans fats. So we want the assembly to consider two options WHO recommends. One is to ban importation and production of partially hydrogenated oils. The second one is to limit the addition of trans fats to only 2%. What we did in the three countries, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, we found that almost our food products that have trans fats, they go up to like 40%. Yet WHO recommends only 2%. So we want, this issue is urgent, and we want it addressed urgently by the YALA. But also on the bill.
Children should not be aggressively advertised to products that aggressively harm them. We don't want to also see children being used as pawns to advertise harmful products. We as health consumers also know for a fact that there are other products, energy foods, sugary foods, and salt foods, all being advertised to children. Children should be protected from this. The other is, we know for a fact that East African partner states, in their legislative framework, they should adopt frameworks that ensure that we protect our citizens from these particular products. East Africa will never benefit if all of us die from exposure of tobacco or any other products that harm us. Trans fatty acids or such fats oils, and the like are going to kill us, and we may never realize the harmonization of the East African community. We know that the East African Legislative Assembly has every mandate to call it upon all its East African partners, or even look at all its boundaries to ensure that its citizens are protected from this particular harmful product.
For the Honorable Jacqueline Amogin, member of IALA Uganda chapter, this call comes in timely as the health of East African matters for IALA members before she assures her advocacy for our legislation in the East African community.
So this is a petition that we are going to look at, and we will definitely get back to the Uganda Health Consumers Association. They have also raised an issue in regards to the bill on standardization, accreditation and conformity assessment, Bill 2023. And we, as the regional assembly, we are also going to expedite on this bill and also address some of the concerns that were not addressed in this bill. So I think this is a good way to proceed. And when this is addressed, that means we will be addressing issues of standardization within the whole region and also transboundary fatty acids within the whole of East Africa. Because what affects Ugandans affects the rest of the other countries, since we are trading in goods and services, and there is a lot of movements within the whole region.
Heading over to the next story, every year in Rwanda, disasters affect more than 2 million people. The ministry in charge of emergency management, MINEMA, states that among the strategies to cope with these disasters is early warning, ensuring that citizens are informed about potential disasters in advance. Saula Sandra Tumukunde with more.
Disaster caused by heavy rainfall, lightning and landslide are some of the most common occurrences. Citizens explain the severity of the impact. I always wake up and find out that water's full everywhere in my house because of disaster caused by the heavy rainfall. I checked where the water comes from and find out that it's caused by the fullness of Sebeya River. In only a few minutes, like 3 to 4, everything in my house was damaged by the disaster. My materials, my animals, like everything was damaged. The Ministry of Emergency Management, MINEMA, and its partner have discussed the importance of understanding the causes of disaster in Rwanda and how they can coordinate efforts to prevent them and better assist those affected. The Minister of Disaster Management, Major General Leontona Albert, in his speech, he stated that there are certain actions that citizens can take to help protect themselves from disaster.
We must observe the building code and following recommendations from environmental impact assessment when constructing houses, churches, and various infrastructure facilities. For example, you may find here in this room that some of us or many people do not have lightning arresters in their houses or workplaces. Second, we need to enforce environmental management policies and guidelines across all sectors and in our communities and workplaces. Third, we need to increase insurance penetration for agriculture and husbandry, houses, public and private buildings, businesses, churches, to transfer risks and mitigate disaster risks.
Minister Albert also says that in the country's Development Acceleration Program, NST2, there are strategies that will help the country better tackle disasters.
Transformation NST2 emphasizes that disaster risk reduction and management will be enhanced across all sectors in the next 5 years. I wish to draw to your attention that the focus in the next 5 years will be development of multi-hazard early warning systems, restoring catchment areas, improving watershed management, and implementing flood control measures in high-risk areas. All these interventions will need joint efforts, coordinated investment, and integrated projects.
The UN resident coordinator in Rwanda, Ozonia Ojielo, states that nowadays the world is facing numerous unexpected disasters that are causing widespread damage, including the loss of lives. He believes that there need to be a concentrated effort to tackle these challenges.
Advance access to multi-hazard and people-centric early warning systems, systematically strengthening anticipatory approaches to disaster risk management to ensure we act early and not wait for damages to materialize and accumulate, enabling us to come up with prearranged financing for disaster risk reduction and management just to ensure that resources are available to assist those in need in a timely way. These are our key principles. Ahead calls for our unwavering commitment to collaboration, innovation, and systematic investment. Let us continue to work side by side, turning our collective vision into action and building a foundation of resilience that protects every community, ensures sustainable progress, and fosters a safer, brighter future for all in Rwanda.
A total of 1,226 disasters have been recorded, resulting in the loss of 170 lives, while 348 others were injured. It also highlights that every year, disasters in Rwanda affect more than 10,100 households and have an impact on over 2 million people. Saula Sandra Tumkund, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Sandra, for that report. Special Advisor to the UN Secretary General on the Prevention of Genocide and War Crimes Against Humanity, USG Alice Wairimu Nderitu, who is attending ongoing series of workshops aimed at leveraging Rwanda's lessons on genocide prevention at Kigali Genocide Memorial, says Africa and the rest of the world have not learned any lessons from Rwanda's dark past. In part one of this conversation, William Evans Mutabazi talked to her about the mandate of the office she heads, its successes, and what she finds as the current challenges.
We are sitting down with USG, Alice Wairimu, who is the Secretary Advisor to the UN Secretary General on prevention of genocide. We just want to have a bit of a conversation on what her office does in the face of prevention of the genocide. Thank you for allowing us space to have this conversation. Let's begin with the mandate of your office.
There was a lot of soul searching after the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994 here in Rwanda, and the genocide in Srebrenica in 1995. This office came from the lessons learned by the United Nations in the failure of the United Nations to prevent the genocide against the Tutsi and the genocide in Srebrenica against the Bosniak Muslims.
I've had a chance of reading the then UN Secretary General Kofi Annan's report. I think it was titled "A More Secure World, Our Shared Responsibility." From the establishment of the office to where we are now, there are some successes that we've registered as an office in terms of course, looking at your mandate, which is prevention of genocide, but also war crimes against humanity.
Now, the genocide deniers are not as confident as they were before. They are doing things behind the scenes because they know we will call them out. We worked with social media, tech and social media companies, so that if, for example, you are looking for like something to show you that this genocide did not happen, what comes to you really are the facts of how the genocide happened.
For your office, and of course, in the face of the current challenges that we're having a genocide almost at its peak in DRC. We're having a genocide in our eyes in Sudan and other parts of the world. What do we look at now as, let's say, the missing gaps?
People need to understand the consequences of a genocide, how far-reaching they are. That a genocide is not something that happens and then you close the door and then you move on. The consequences are so huge, and the consequences are unfortunately so huge on the people to whom the genocide happened. So we have survivors, the victims of the genocide, being in the position of first they were victims, and then they had to go to court to relive the whole process. Some didn't even have the privilege of going to court, so they have to continue living next to the perpetrators who got away with it. And then those who went to court then go through this process of understanding that this court process can only convict a few of the perpetrators, not even all of them. And after all this is done, then the perpetrators, the perpetrators, there are so many of them who get away with it, and the victims and survivors are left in that space where now they start facing the denial, the genocide denial. So first you are targeted for complete extinction, for complete extermination. So your life became completely destroyed. You are a woman, you are raped, so many things happen to you. And then you now have to prove to the world that it happened to me. So until we raise enough critical voices to speak the way I'm speaking, to say that as a world it's unacceptable that we should allow people to whom genocides happened to be in the space where they have to keep defending themselves and to keep saying that genocide ideology that allowed for the genocide to happen in the first place continues to happen even now. We need a lot of critical voices. We need serious leadership. Leaders who will speak and say, we really, really have a duty to combat this genocide ideology. Because this genocide ideology will keep us stuck in the past, will keep us going on and on, will keep us thinking about how other people should not belong, thinking about who belongs and who does not belong. Yet, you know, like when you look at us, like we are Africans, I mean, who doesn't belong on this continent? So at the end, like ultimately, I do think so much needs to be done. So much is vested in this single office to do so much. While so many people, which is why we work with constituencies, we work with women, religious leaders, with the media, you know, with tech and social media companies, we try as much as possible to broaden our constituency base to get people who will speak like us with the conviction of the way we are speaking, so that then we protect these communities, because it's actually, I think it defies anything you can think of as a human being to imagine that in this day and age we should actually be thinking that the Bosniak Muslims and the Tutsi would again be in danger again. I mean, what lessons have we learned? Yeah, but I think for Africa especially, we need to look deeply into ourselves as a continent.
William Evans for that. Now, as part of the Africa Day of Information, this evening at Camp Kigali Development Journalism Awards took place, whereby the best journalists in different categories were given awards. Christian Mugisha, one of the local journalists who were recognized, affirms that his awards emphasizes the dedicated efforts of media practitioners here in Rwanda.
So I really think it is something important to the journalists, because it shows that they are recognized. They are, I mean, whatever they do on a daily basis is being recognized countrywide in terms of, I mean, the energy, the whatever they invest, the efforts and everything. So it shows that in various institutions they are being recognized, and it keeps them moving forward. For journalists to come here and get an award, it means they have done an amazing job than others, which doesn't mean that others are not doing the great job, but you know, there's always the first. So it means that if more than 31 journalists are being awarded, it means that the future of the journalism sector, particularly in Rwanda, is in safe hands. Yeah.
In Ngororero district, residents in sectors involved in environmental conservation activities such as tree planting and terracing express hope that these efforts will revitalize agriculture, as soil erosion had previously reduced crop yields. Hindiro is one of Ngororero's district's sectors characterized by its steep hills. These terracing and tree planting initiatives span 14 sectors surrounding the Gishwati Mukura Forest and Lake Kivu in the Rutsiro and Ngororero districts, and are set to continue for nearly 2 years. So far, terraces have been developed on 914 hectares of gentle slopes and over 2,300 hectares of steep slopes, with over 3.3 million trees planted. The work is part of the Mulakila project implemented by the Arcos organization in partnership with Forests Action. Now, this project is among initiatives under a coalition focused on sustainable livelihoods through environmental services and natural resource management. This coalition was established in 2020 by King Charles III of the United Kingdom.
The particular project will last 30 years. The first years will be dedicated to plantations with the communities, and the following years will be focusing on measuring impact. Impact on climate, impact on biodiversity, on soil and water, but also on social impact, to see how people's life is changing thanks to the project.
The Mulakila project operates in 8 sectors of Rutsiro district and 6 sectors of Ngororero district, with a budget of 53 million euros, which is over 80 billion Rwandan francs. In Musanze district, Rwanda's first steel manufacturing plant, which processes metal ores, is set to be constructed. This factory will reduce the need for imports of certain construction materials, as it will have the capacity to meet domestic demand and supply the regional market.
Once this factory commence the production, after that the country is not needed to import this kind of steel for the use of Rwandan market, as well as the export of this goods to the neighboring countries. So that is why this plant coming here is very unique for the country. The company is going to create a job opportunity for more than 1,000 people directly and more than 3,000 people indirectly.
Antoine Kajangwe, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Trade and Industry, noted that building this factory is a major step forward for Rwanda, given the country's abundant mineral resources that needed value addition to benefit the nation.
It's going to have considerable backward and forward linkages with value addition of minerals, materials that are extracted in the country. And importantly, it's also going to contribute to reducing the trade deficit and also increasing exports. So it has significant contribution to the economy and even in facilitating the integration of our broader economic sector. When you have a company that is linked to both forward and backward sectors of the economy, that means that you are supporting and facilitating various sectors, from the mining sector to the transportation sector to the industrial sector, electricity generation and water consumption, and ultimately even to the wholesale and retail sector and the construction sector as well. So there's multiple sectors of the economy that this industry will facilitate and support, in addition to broader macroeconomic indicators that will be facilitated by this industry.
India's High Commissioner to Rwanda, His Excellency Mridu Pawan Das, emphasized that Indian companies continue to invest in Rwanda due to the country's strong policies and security, providing solid confidence for investors.
So Rwanda, I believe, has the right investment climate. You know, it has a great deal of political stability for decades now under the commendable leadership of Honorable President Paul Kagame. So there's a great deal of political stability in Rwanda. There is a great deal of safety in Rwanda. There is, ease of doing business in Rwanda. There is, I would say, the rules are all meant for businesses to grow. So we call it the ease of doing business in India. So I think the ease of doing business exists in Rwanda, which gives a platform for companies from India to come and contribute to the growth journey of Rwanda. So this is something which is most important for me, because I represent my country India here as the High Commissioner, and it is always a great pleasure when I see Indian businesses come up and set up establishments here in this very friendly country, Rwanda. India and Rwanda have very close bilateral relations. Our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister Modi, was in Rwanda in 2018. Honorable President of Rwanda, President Paul Kagame, has been to India on a couple of occasions, mostly on business trips to Vibrant Gujarat Summit and all. The two leaders have a great friendship. There's a great deal of warmth between the two peoples of the two countries, and our relationship can only go high and high.
Currently, the Musanze Industrial Park hosts 3 factories, a cement factory, a textile factory, and the upcoming metal processing plant. And the plant is expected to be completed by May 2025.
Tujibichu na MTN. Gura pack cyangwa bando utsinde. Tsindira renga miliyoni 200 mu bihembo byinshi birimo gutembera muri rutemikirere mu rw'imisozi igihumbi, amamiliyoni n'amamiliyoni, amagare, imirasire y'izuba, amamoto kuba agent ba MTN n'ibindi byinshi. Ntukikwe n'aya mahirwe. Kanda akanyenyeri 140 urwego ugure pack yo guhamagara, akanyenyeri 3 urwego pack za internet, cyangwa ugura amayinite na pack ku mu agent wa MTN maze utsinde. Wikwisondeka, amategeko n'amabwiriza birakurikizwa.
During life's moments, laying hoops, giving away, making moves, breakfast with family, Inyanje is always there. Whatever the occasion, whatever the moment, always ask for Inyanje.
warm welcome back to other stories making headlines on the international scene. Heading over to Malawi. With the help from the World Food Programme, it has received its first shipment of more than 19,000 tons of maize from Ukraine. The food aid will help millions of Malawians currently with food shortages exacerbated by El Nino-induced drought. VOA with the details.
The assistance to Malawi comes under the Grain from Ukraine initiative the country's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, launched in November 2022. The aim of the initiative is to provide Ukrainian grain and other food supplies to countries experiencing food crises. Ukraine's ambassador to Kenya, Andriy Prevadik, came to Malawi to witness the food's arrival. He says the assistance is payback for the support Malawi has shown for Ukraine in its war with Russia.
Malawi is one of the few African countries which supported and continue to support Ukraine in defending our sovereignty and territorial integrity, and in particular by voting in favor of all UN resolutions demanding Russia to withdraw its troops from Ukraine.
Malawi is one of its worst humanitarian situations in decades after a prolonged dry spell blamed on El Nino severely reduced the nation's agricultural outputs, leaving 5.7 million people short of food. The World Food Programme is coordinating the delivery and distribution of relief food assistance to the hardest hit areas in Malawi. The UN's food agency previously obtained food from Tanzania, Kenya and South Africa, but says it has now extended the search elsewhere because of limited maize availability in those countries.
The capacity that we need here means that we've had to import from further afield. So we've been assisted by the Grain from Ukraine initiative, which has been funded in our case by Sweden, Netherlands, France and Korea. So we've support from the donors, and also we're a partner with Ukraine in the initiative.
The donors pledged further commitment in assisting countries most affected by climate change related disasters.
And France is also next year hosting the Nutrition for Growth conference. So for us, the answer to such issues is to come together and try and support the most climate change affected countries in the world.
Officials in Malawi welcome the Ukrainian assistance.
As Malawi, we really appreciate the response that we have received this far, that we can be able to say up to December we are okay, and we are still mobilizing to make sure that we get to March.
The WFP, however, says it urgently needs $63 million to fully meet the needs of food insecure communities in Malawi. Without such support, it says millions could face even greater hunger. Lamik Masina, VOA News, Blantyre, Malawi.
And that VOA story marks the end of our bulletin. Before we close off, let's have a quick recap of our headlines. Rwanda is set to host the 7th edition of the Youth Connect Summit starting tomorrow on Friday, which will bring together entrepreneurs from over 30 countries from across Africa. The Special Advisor to the UN Secretary General on the Prevention of Genocide and War Crimes Against Humanity, USG Alice Wairimu, is attending an ongoing series of workshops aimed at leveraging Rwanda's lessons on genocide prevention at Kigali Genocide Memorial. And on the international scale, Malawi, with help from the World Food Programme, has received its first shipment of more than 19,000 tons of maize from Ukraine. Once again, that marks the end of our bulletin tonight, and on behalf of the news production team as well as the technical team, we'd like to thank you very much for sticking with us on RTV News. My name is Martina Avera. Have a great night.